Hello everyone, and welcome to a Statgrass Creations vlog. This is continuing on with the Circle of Orboros commission vlog that I've been doing for the past little bit. And today I'm going to be painting the Bog Trog Mist Speaker from Minions in the Hordes factions list from Privateer Press. So yeah, I typically don't use a wet palette, but in this case I do, because filming does take a little bit longer than just painting on the spot. So and also I planned on mixing colors as well. Okay, so first thing I'm doing is I'm using Games Workshop paint Gretchen Green. This is an old foundation paint. It's some other name now, but in the new pot. But this is just going to be the base coat for the model, and here I'm using like a standard size brush. I'm not really worrying about being very careful with my lines here. I'm just blocking in the colors. I tend to like just blocking in the colors like this because it helps me visualize what I want in the model. I am following the box art for this, but it only shows like one side of the Mist Speaker. And besides, I still like to put down the base coats at least, which are usually the mid-tone of the color. So yeah, I'm going to be like moving back and forth between paints, just jumping back and forth, either because I was just waiting for something to dry or I forgot to paint something. So the paints are going to come back and forth pretty quickly sometimes. Sometimes I do this by pinning the model to the cork. Usually I just hold it by the base, but in this case it's easier for me to keep it within the frame for the camera if I have it on the cork. And it also, because the model is metal, helps keep my fingers away from the model. Just a simple pass over with your finger could scratch paint off. Metal models are very delicate, so if you never painted a metal model before, Privateer Press still has lots of metal models. You can try, but it is you do need to be careful around it. I would use tack, like poster tack, for keeping up the model. I do have some. I tried it, but the model was too heavy, or my cork, I guess, didn't let it stick on too well, so the model just kind of flopped off. Yeah, from the off camera, I changed the base a little bit. I looked at a detail again. The client asked for like a swampy base on the Mist Speaker and the Gatorman Witch Doctor. Totally slipped my mind, but I still, even with the swamp base, I remember like looking at it and seeing what I wanted from it, I know I still wanted the sand flock on there to get like a bit of a substance to the base first, and then to put grass on it, as well as a drop of water effects. Water effects pool is going to be a little bit smaller on the Mist Speaker than on the Gatorman, because the Gatorman is a 40mm base. This is only 30, and the Mist Speaker is taking up most of the base already, particularly with his tail and his giant feet. So the detail of having another pool of water effects will probably be lost. And besides, like, cutting away at the flock, get a little bit more texture from it when I finish the model. So here I'm using Khemri Brown. Again, this is a base coat for the cloth. Just dabbing it on, mixing it on my wet palette with some water to thin it out a little bit. If you noticed, I don't believe I did too much. I didn't use the wet palette too much to have my paint for the Gretchen Green. That's because the Gretchen Green was quite liquidy when it came out of the pot, so I just did that. But in this case, the Khemri Brown has been sitting in there for a while. It's a Games Workshop paint, by the way. It's been sitting in the pot for a while, so it kind of got thicker, and you need to water it down a bit. In this video, I'm finishing watching another Sips playthrough. If you remember me mentioning Sips playthrough of Prison Architect. And then later in this video, I'm switching over to Critical Role. Got an email asking if I watch Critical Role. I did, or I do. I just took a little bit of hiatus from them. I really do like them. They're hilarious. I'm only on episode 3 right now, but I plan on going through the whole series. And I look forward for more. My buddies watch Critical Role, and they love it, and I know I'm going to love it. So there's that. I know I said that I'm not being too careful on the lines. I'm being a little careful, to clarify. A little bit careful so that I don't have to go back and keep fixing things and just kind of fiddling around. Having a little bit of care so then your lines, your paint stays within the lines, just so you don't have to go back and redo stuff that you just did, right? I think I'm going to have this video in probably 2 parts, maybe even 3. How many? Because I took a lot of videos, and how long are these? Yeah, I might have to even, it might be almost 3 parts. Maybe I hope I can do it in 2 parts. Just want to do it in like half-hour stints, thereabouts. Otherwise, it'll be like an hour of me watching paint dry, essentially. But I love doing it. I almost did this in one sitting. It's really good. Yeah. Just looking over for where I want to put the Khemri Brown. I'm also referencing the box art image as well. So if there's pauses, then that's what I'm doing. Or I'm looking over at Critical Role. Thinking whether or not to make this into a painting tutorial. Maybe the next one, maybe the Gatorman I will. Just cause I have a green background and then the model is a different shade of green. So I want a better contrast for that. Yeah, even though like you can see the, hopefully you can. At least I can see the model quite clearly. I know what I'm looking at, but that's because I have biased eyes. Yeah, I think the Gatorman I will combo the vlog as a painted tutorial as well. Finally get a painted tutorial out after like, what, a year or so? Okay, so now I'm moving on to Rhinox Hide. This is another Games Workshop paint. Mostly you have Games Workshop paints. That was just like the thing that I have. Most of them are good. So yeah, darker brown. I'm putting this on his skirt, loincloth, whatever you want to call it, tunic. As well as the staff and his fish totem thing. I want to say it's a totem and it's carved out of wood, but at the same time on the box art its mouth is like glowing orange or something, so it looks like it's alive maybe. For here I got up close. I got quite close suddenly. Yeah, this was just after I had dinner or something like that. I came back and then just kind of readjusted the camera. It's a lot closer now. You might have questions on what paintbrushes I use. There's a couple different ones. I like the Winsor & Newton Series 7 paintbrushes, usually size 0 or smaller. But the brushes that I'm using right now or in this video, are from our Rosemary & Co. Pure Sable Series 101. I think they're an English company, based in the UK, somewhere in Europe anyway. Yeah, because I was looking for sable hair brushes, and over in the United States, in Canada, they're like non-existent, or they cost like triple what they should. And in the state, they're like not exporting to Canada from the States, so I gotta look elsewhere. And over here I found Rosemary & Co. They're like they're like a distributor company basically, and this is their brand of paintbrushes. Yeah, so far they're pretty good. Out of the box though, they did have some problems splaying, but usually after a good wash with paintbrush soap and some paint cleaner, or soaking in paint cleaner for a little bit, they're usually fine. But otherwise they hold They hold water and paint very well, and it's a very smooth stroke when you use them. I actually use them more than my Winsor & Newton brushes right now. So we're moving on to a P3 paint from Privateer Press, Jack Bone. If you've ever heard of Commando Khaki from Games Workshop, or the now equivalent of it, which is, I don't remember what it's called, it is the same color. This one and Commando Khaki are the exact same color. The P3 pot just has more of it, so I picked that one up. And my recipe is always the same with bone, unless I'm going for a different effect, obviously. Always the same. It's Jack Bone or Commando Khaki. Then, because P3 came out with the equivalents of Ushabti Bone and Commando Khaki. So I have Jack Bone and Menoth White base. Menoth White base is the same color as Ushabti Bone from Games Workshop. I use those now for painting. I love them. And that's me getting the Menoth, the Protectorate of Menoth paint set from Privateer Press. That's how I got a lot of these paints. Actually were from those paint sets. And my favorite color from Privateer Press, hands down, is Menoth White Highlight. It's like a mix between Menoth White base and pure white. It's that really like zenithal highlight that is the go-to highlight from my palette, is Menoth White Highlight. If I ever want something super bright but I don't want it white, Menoth White Highlight. So here, there's lots of little bone trinkets and totems and stuff like that. So I'm painting all those. There's, I guess, like fingers or talons on his hood. There's a bunch of bones on his fish totem. There's a lot of bones on his staff as well. And don't forget those ones. I will be painting the... what's it called? His scaled skin on his back, a different color green. Maybe I will have to do this in 3 parts. This is already 20 minutes in, and I'm just doing the base coats. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, if you can hear the the kids in the background, they're running around and having a good time up there. I'm pretty much been running around like this all day. Earlier, actually, they were just in the other room, and they're fighting over who gets to play with the princess or something. The sister's princess, the the youngest boy wanted to play with her, but she wouldn't let him for some reason. And then there was a tantrum, an argument, a fight. Now they've calmed down, and now they're stomping around upstairs. Yeah, for the box art, I actually found a website, or I guess someone, because Privateer Press and Games Workshop does too. They commission out certain painters to paint their products for the box art. It's the person that was commissioned to do the Bog Trog, the Bog Trog Mist Speaker, he or she posted that up on a website, both the front view, side view, back view, and a 360 view of him. Super helpful. I'm always a little bit jealous of those people that get to paint for box art and stuff. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. Going for a barbecue tonight. Trying to do a little bit of coordination. This is another Privateer Press paint, Battlefield Brown. Very good brown. It is brighter than Rhinox Hide from Games Workshop, so it is a good highlight to it, actually. It's like a grayer and brighter version of Rhinox Hide. So if you want something not as saturated in color, so maybe something like armor, or like a dried piece of wood, maybe, then you'd want to go with Battlefield Brown. So for this, I'm getting into the highlighting of the model, since now all of it's nice and base coated the way I wanted it. Battlefield Brown is going onto his tunic skirt thing. A little bit of that color going. Yeah, so usually with browns, I like to use Mournfang Brown and then Snakebite. No. What's it called from Games Workshop? It is called Baylor Brown. That combination of browns and Baylor Brown is pretty much yellow. You get this very, like, bright, stark, brown, yellow. It really pops out. I like to use it for rope, in particular, and hair, actually. Because for hair, it makes it look like it's dirty blonde. I use it all the time for my Empire army for Warhammer Fantasy or Age of Sigmar. It's very I guess German-like. I don't know. So yeah, this Rosemary & Co. brush is the size 0 believe. Let's see. Yes. It is the size 0 pure sable brush from Rosemary & Co. And the larger one is a size 1. So for this in particular, I do also use that mix I was talking about, or the recipe I was talking about for browns on wood as well, but only if there aren't really any of that brown present elsewhere on the model, or in any significant amount. But in this case, I was mostly following the box art, and the box art Bog Trog Mist Speaker has kind of like a desaturated dried wood or dead wood kind of staff or fish totem. So I'm using my size 0 brush just to highlight all the bits and pieces like that. And I did forget to base coat some of the bones protruding out of the totem, so I will be going back and painting those up when I'm finished the highlighting here. Eventually, it won't be immediately. Might be having dinner right now. Gotta make sure I get the mouth and all that. I'm gonna be coming back to his hood in a little bit. I think I'm gonna do that next video though. And just kind of make it darker and then build up to that kind of brightness, just along the edges though, because on the box art it is darker, and also I don't want that kind of contrast on this model. Although a different shade is fine. So I'll be doing that. So the last base coat bit that I'm going to do before shutting this off is with Caliban Green from Games Workshop. I'm going to base coat the scales on the back. So for this Caliban Green, the paint is on the liquidy side, but it's still kind of thick. Usually I can work with it, but later on I'm going to be watering it down in favor of just having a little bit more having to do some more layers instead. Get a smoother coat Jeez, I'm at the 30-minute mark already, my goodness. Yeah, it's not a big patch of dark green there, but it'll do. Okay, so next video is I am going to continue with this model. A lot more highlights, mostly highlights in the next video, and then probably it'll take a third one to finish off the model with painting the base, as well as adding water effects and some static grass. Alright everyone, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.